Happy holiday, happy holiday, while the merry bells keep ringing. Happy holiday to you. It's the holiday season, and Santa Claus is coming round. The Christmas snow is white on the ground. When old Santa gets into town, he'll be coming down the chimney down.
He'll be coming down the chimney down.
It's the holiday season, and Santa Claus has got a toy for every good girl and good little boy. Santa's a great big bundle of joy when he's coming down the chimney down.
When he's coming down the chimney down.
He'll have a big fat pack upon his back, and lots of goodies for you and for me. So leave a peppermint stick for old Saint Nick hanging on the Christmas tree. It's the holiday season,
The holiday season.
so hoop-dee-doo and dickory-dock. And don't forget to hang up your sock, 'cause just exactly at 12 o'clock he'll be coming down the chimney down.
He'll be coming down the chimney down.
He'll have a big fat pack upon his back, and lots of goodies for you and for me. So leave a peppermint stick for old Saint Nick hanging on the Christmas tree. It's the holiday season,
The holiday season.
so hoop-dee-doo and dickory-dock. And don't forget to hang up your sock, 'cause just exactly at 12 o'clock he'll be coming down the chimney,
Coming down the chimney.
coming down the chimney down.
Happy holiday.
Happy holiday,
Holiday.
happy holiday, while the merry bells keep ringing. Happy holiday to you.
Happy holiday. Happy holiday. Happy holiday.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas.
What's up, Red Green 53? Where's the medal? There's no medal for today. That's only for it's only because it's Christmas. Decided to throw on some Christmas music specifically for the because it's the holidays. There will be medal next stream though, I promise. Anyway, hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing good too, man. I really do. Let me go ahead and fix this because for some reason it's only outputting it on the left side. Let me go ahead and do mono. Okay, that should have fixed it. Hopefully that's better now. Okay, so let me go ahead and go through here to the video. Now, I want to go ahead and just start by saying that there are games on here that I have not played. So I'm not going to comment on those too much, but I will comment on the ones that I have played or that I have any knowledge of whatsoever. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it because it's a 50-minute video. I'm going to try and get through this pretty quickly.
How dull.
There is no getting around it. 2024 sucked for video games. Nothing good came out. Nothing, unless you were a Nintendo fan.
Okay, sucked? I don't know about that. There were some pretty good games that that some people liked that came out this year. Ones I haven't played, notably like Space Marine 2. That was one that I didn't play that I heard was pretty fucking good. Pal World was really good. I know he loves to cope and seethe about that. That was pretty good. Helldivers 2 was pretty fucking good. There's one I haven't played, but I do really want to try is Black Myth Wukong. I heard that one was really good. So, I mean, all things considered, I mean, there were no, like, major, like, pre-established IPs that were getting sequels or anything that came out this year, but, I mean, like, so, I mean, in that regard, it was kind of like a dry spell this year, but aside from that, there were some pretty good games that came out this year. I mean, the most recent one was Marvel Rivals. That's actually a pretty good fucking game. Jeez, the cringe. Oh, I know, dude. I know.
If you were a fan of gaming PCs, or PlayStation or Xbox, you got absolutely nothing. And the absolute worst games of the year will be showcased here today on the Luigi's for 2024.
All right, let's get the most boring, generic, uninspired, basic thing out of the way first. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered did come out this year. I know...
Okay, Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Okay, so for it to be on the worst of the year list, this doesn't make sense to me because it's a remaster. Like, obviously it was an unnecessary remaster because the game is only, what, like 4 years old at this point? So there's really no reason for this to be on here. I mean, like, that doesn't necessarily make the game any better or worse. So for it to be here just doesn't make sense to me, personally. But, I mean, I don't like the story of The Last of Us Part 2. I can't critique the gameplay because I haven't played it. But I do think the story is hot garbage. So, but for the worst of the year list, this is just a fucking remaster. Why would you put it here? It doesn't make sense. You watch Linkara? I've never heard of Linkara, so can't really comment on that.
No one talks about this game. I know no one cares about this game. I know it didn't do well on PlayStation or PC. I know...
Wait, hold on.
I know it didn't do well on PlayStation or PC.
It's not on PC yet. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, they did announce that it is coming to PC at the Game Awards, but it's not officially on there yet. So why are you saying it didn't do well on PC? Last of Us Part 1, the remake, did come to PC, which it didn't do very well at first, but they actually kind of fixed their problems, and then you just have to wait for shaders to compile, and then, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's a fine port. It's nowhere on the level of, like, the Ghost of Tsushima port or anything, but The Last of Us Part 2 is not on PC yet, so why would you even say that? Like that's just not. It's not even here yet. A Google search will tell you that.
I know, like, the game journos have done everything in their power to kind of retroactively claim this game to be an underappreciated masterpiece, but in reality, it is and always has been a complete mess. And all of the re-releases, all of the shilling, the HBO show last year, everything they've done has just been leading up to this wet fart of a re-release. They did not magically find a new audience by re-releasing on the PS5.
Well, it's not necessarily about finding a new audience. It was just like, I mean, The Last of Us is a cash cow for PC, or not PC, for PlayStation. So they're gonna milk it as much as they possibly fucking can. So, I mean, it's not about finding a new audience per se. And I mean, the game also is very divisive. It wasn't like an misunderstood masterpiece. It's just divisive. Like, you either really love it or you really hate it. Like, that's not necessarily a misunderstood masterpiece. That's just a very divisive title.
Everyone who has been paying attention to The Last of Us knows that Naughty Dog and PlayStation as a whole is a dying platform that is simply not capable of competing with Nintendo anymore. This is a company that's been on the decline for over a decade and is just running on fumes. And although there are a handful of people who will religiously stick by them no matter what, releases like this really showcase what the problem actually is when it comes to PlayStation releases. Not only was this title poorly received to begin with, they're re-releasing it when they really didn't need to.
Okay, rare instance I actually agree with Harman. They didn't need to re-release this, but they did anyway because it's a cash cow. Guy sucks. Oh, I mean, I'm not familiar with him, so I can't say definitively if he sucks or not. But if I have time on the stream later, maybe I'll check it out.
I know people who were upset when they re-released the remastered version of The Last of Us Part 1. And then they did it again on the PS5, and now they're remastering the sequel. It doesn't matter how many times you re-release this game. It isn't magically going to become popular. And that is, of course, like, simply...
I mean, it already is popular, though. That's the thing, though. Like, it's already pretty popular. Whether you love it or hate it, it's still popular.
the meta aspect of this release. At its actual core, as we all know, The Last of Us is simply not a very good game and never has had a genuine popular audience.
I mean,
If
yes, it
there's
has,
a
but
game
alright.
company that I'm glad is failing in 2024, I'm glad it's WB. Because 10 years ago,
Oh.
I had to deal
Oh,
with...
Suicide Squad. Okay. Now, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about Suicide Squad, so I'm probably just going to let this part play. But, god damn, dude. Suicide Squad was just a fucking mess from the get-go. I mean, like, why even make a live service game based around the Suicide Squad? That part doesn't make sense to me at all.
people trying to tell me that Arkham
No, it's all about Harman. Oh, okay.
City was one of the best games ever made. It was one of the best superhero titles ever made. Batman is this iconic, legendary figure in fiction, when in reality he's some cheap knockoff of the Scarlet Pimpernel, Sherlock Holmes, and
He's a cheap knockoff of a Sherlock Holmes character? Okay, well listen, I haven't read any of the Sherlock Holmes stories, so I can't say definitively if he's like inspired by that or if he in some way is a cheap knockoff or not. But growing up with Batman, he never really, I mean, he is the world's greatest detective, but like I don't know if he's necessarily like, I mean that would make sense if he's inspired by Sherlock Holmes stories, like in terms of like his detective aspects, like it would make sense, but to say he's a cheap knockoff, I think, is stretching it a little bit.
the Shadow, with none of the appeal that made those characters popular to begin with. Batman sucks, and his entire extended universe reflects that fact. Like, I don't know who the Suicide Squad is. I don't know who the Justice League is. I don't know, like, why these people are fighting each other. I don't know why characters that were killed, like, back in the Arkham games are back in this one, even though it supposedly takes place in the same continuity. You know, the problems with Suicide Squad have nothing to do with the gas features or the setup or the mechanics. The issue is that Western superhero fiction isn't very well thought out to begin with. It isn't interesting. It's not fun. The characters don't have interesting storylines. When I compare this to really well-made, interesting games from Asian cultures, like even like superhero fiction, Sentai, for example, you really see like a maturity and intelligence that just isn't present in this degenerate genre. Like when I look at DC, like I don't look at this.
Oh shit. Hold on. Oh fuck. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. I wasn't expecting my dogs to go ape shit. Nah, Lynx is Mr. Comics related, so yeah, he's also made Power Rangers videos. Oh, okay. Um, probably have to check that out then. I mean, I'm not a big Power Rangers fan, but like I can probably look into the comic stuff. You're not the only one dogs in the background. Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
This game and think of missed opportunities. I think of just how fundamentally these characters just really aren't all that interesting, and how I am very sick and tired of seeing them shoved everywhere. This game and the studio behind it deserve to fail.
I don't think Rocksteady deserved to fail. I think that like I think you're just in the minority when you're tired of seeing superhero stuff. I mean, like there is some comic book fatigue. There is a lot of superhero stuff out right now, and it just keeps coming on and coming on and coming on, and none of it is particularly like good anymore. I think they just really need to like take a break with some of it. But I mean, I think you're really the only one who just is in the minority and not really liking superhero stuff.
Before Gamergate, I think
Oh, a Nintendo game. He's got a Nintendo game on his worst of the year list? Okay.
a lot of people
Let's see what it
were
is.
giving indie games the benefit of the doubt. You know, people thought these were passionate projects that were coming from people who love games, who wanted to make their own unique titles that really would not exist in the mainstream. And that narrative persisted for years up until Gone Home came out and kind of dismantled the entire thing. Like, people have learned to hate minor, low budget indie games. But a lot of people, myself included, really had no idea just how bad get the early major indie games actually were. I think Fez has gotten a
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I have nothing to say about the game because I don't know what it is and I haven't played it. But, dude, if you're gonna, like, stutter and, like, stumble over your words, just re-record the take. Like, it's not hard. This is a pre-recorded video. Just start over. It's really not that hard. You don't have to do everything in one go and then upload it.
reputation for being a niche game for a niche audience, and people don't really care about it or its creator anymore. But Braid was something that I remember being propped up as an example of what makes indie gaming great. Something that really showcases the power of creativity and had a really charming, unique story. Imagine my surprise when 15 years after release, I finally get around to playing this and realize it's just some subversive Mario game that takes itself super seriously. Like, oh, what if the princess didn't want to be rescued? Ooh, is it that deep? Ooh. it's the most sad knockoff derivative project I've ever seen in my life, with nothing really charming or creative about it, right? The story isn't interesting, the characters aren't fun, there's no originality or creativity. It's shocking playing this and realizing just how much of a knockoff it is of the Mario property. And that's just like the core game as a whole. Like, for those of you who played the game when it first came out, you got this re-release that really offered nothing of substance. The game, like, the developers spent a lot of time and money giving an
I mean, just looking at some of the gameplay here, though, it doesn't. I mean, obviously, Mario was a very influential title. Like, it's gone on to influence the 2D platformer genre. Like, it was a pioneer when it first came out on the NES. So, like, obviously, there are games that are going to take influence from it, but that doesn't necessarily make it a knockoff. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So, what's up, Survival of VR? Ironic, he says this when Mario hasn't done anything new since the 1990s. I fucking know, right? I mean, aside from maybe like 3D Mario, I mean, like with that, I mean, like, yeah, since like maybe Super Mario 64, like 3D Mario games. Like, I don't think they've done anything new or innovative since then. Like what the fuck? What's up, Big Country? Because Mario's the only side-scroller to ever exist to Harman. That is true. Apparently, it's the only thing that exists, and anything that it takes inspiration from it to try and make its own thing and try to be cool is apparently a knockoff. Is Leon one of your favorite characters, like from Resident Evil?
extended commentary on like the supposed meaning of the game, but I think if the game was actually well executed and interesting, like players would figure all that out for itself. To me, and I think this is true for Jonathan Blow as a whole. Like, I think the Jonathan Blow doesn't understand the appeal of video games. To me, the fact Jonathan Blow seems to think the story should take center focus when it comes to games, and this game is proof that that does not work. Susie Hunter was in it. That's all I need to say. Don't buy this game. Don't care about it. I won't even tell you the title. If Susie Hunter's in anything, you should not ever respect it or its creators.
Well, then I think his opinion is probably just wrong, and I'll try to have to figure out what that game is. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 in particular. Yeah, I would say Leon is up there as one of my favorites in terms of Resident Evil characters. Even though I don't think any Resident Evil character has like, I don't know, not a particularly like a lot of like charm to them, even though they try. I just don't see like any like super like, I don't know. I just can't get into Resident Evil characters in the same way that I can in other games, because to me, Resident Evil is all about like the survival horror aspect of it and how cool like the monster design is and getting scared and shit. I never really care enough about the characters to really get into them, if that makes sense. Again, we must make a parody of his worst games video and just make it all Nintendo games. He would get so fucking salty over that. Like, I swear, if I were to do something like that, because I'm apparently the one who struck a chord with him the most, he would get so fucking salty. That would create such a massive, like, salt mine. It would be glorious, but I don't think that's something I'm particularly interested in. It would be funny, though. It would be very funny.
On the subject of Susie Hunter, let's talk about the other game that he was in this year, Dragon's Dogma 2. In general, Capcom has really been utilizing this.
Dragon's Dogma 2. Okay, so I have not played the first Dragon's Dogma, so obviously I haven't played Dragon's Dogma 2, especially with a release price of fucking $70. I haven't played it, so I can't really say anything, but all I've seen is that at release it was kind of like a mess. It would crash a lot, and apparently there was a ton of bugs and glitches. Like, it was just kind of broken all around when it first came out. So I'm not entirely sure if that's been fixed since launch. I would hope that it has, but I think it's still sitting at here, let me throw the okay, so recent reviews are very positive, and then recent all reviews are overall mixed. So, and it's on sale right. Oh, it's on sale right now. Cool. But yeah, no, I've heard that it's like not really kind of I've heard at launch anyway, it was kind of broken, but um, let's see, yeah, at launch it was kind of broken, but then after that I haven't really heard like anything about it, so hopefully it's gotten better since launch, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 kind of brings a new sort of meaning to him, but he really isn't that deep. He can get kind of snarky and yeah. Yeah, he can. But like that's I mean like his zany one-liners from the OG Resident Evil 4 and then in the remake I mean like they try to add some like character to him and make him like, kind of charming and like over the top sort of, but he's not I mean, I don't know, like he's just not like I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just don't find him like a super interesting character. Let's also take his AI generated the Luigi mascots and roast them as well. I mean, we could.
Former transgender porn star. I'm sorry, transgender former porn star to promote their games, and it really does show in the quality.
Why does okay? Hold on.
Utilizing this former transgender porn star. General Capcom has really been utilizing this former transgender porn star. I'm sorry, transgender former porn star to promote their games, and it really does show in the quality because Capcom has.
Why does that matter to you? Why does them using a former transgender porn star to promote games? Why is that such a big thing, a big deal to you, Harman? Has Harman said anything about it? Anything unhinged about the UH CEO killer being named Luigi? Sounds like something he'd do. I mean, he honestly he would probably try to tie that into some sort of conspiracy about Nintendo. He probably would do that, but as far as I know, no, he hasn't said anything about about Luigi.
Just been going downhill over the past several years. Ever since DMC5 came out, it feels there was a period of time where people were acting like they were on a roll, that they were putting out banger after banger, that they were like on top of their game. But
I mean, they have been though. Like ever since Resident Evil 7, Capcom has been on a streak of releasing nothing but bangers, and this was probably their first miss since then.
Actual connoisseurs like myself understood that that was not true. And I think Dragon's Dogma is a really good indication of just how poor of a.
Let me rephrase that. I don't know if the game as itself was necessarily a miss. It's just the state it released in was a miss because apparently it was broken when it first launched. Maybe it's been fixed since then. I'm not entirely sure, but the state it released in was inexcusable. So like I think maybe that's why people would say that this would be a quote unquote miss maybe from Capcom. This is probably their first miss since like Resident Evil 7. Okay, Harman, name 5 good Nintendo games of 2024 that weren't remakes or weren't broken from the start. Not just that, but also just weren't spin-offs. Because he wanted to hype up Princess Peach Showtime as one of the best games of the year, when all that is just a Mario spin-off. Connoisseur, whatever, yeah.
Situation the company is actually in. Right? When you look at how the audience spent over a decade hyping up Dragon's Dogma 2, pretending it was the greatest action RPG ever made, saying it was some misunderstood masterpiece, like just wait till the sequel, guys. They're going to fix all the problems. They're going to fix the clunkiness. They're going to make it more interesting. It's going to shine. It's going to be amazing when they get around to making it, right? That was the narrative right from the get-go in regards to Dragon's Dogma 2. People were expecting great things even when the first game was still new, right? But after several re-releases of the first game...
The fucking voice crack. Just redo the voice line, bro. It's not hard. Just delete it in Audacity and then press R to do it again. And then once you get it right, you can leave it in. It's just not hard. Oh my god.
After an MMO that never left Asia, Dragon's Dogma 2 finally got made. And what did we get? It took us a decade to get a lazy, uninspired rehash of the original Dragon's Dogma, which with no innovations to speak of at all, which was just kind of the same thing we had seen already, which showed
It's crazy to look
Oh, it just cut off. He didn't even finish. It just cut off.
Dragon's
Wait.
Dogma, which with no innovations to speak of at all, which was just kind of the same thing we had seen already, which showed
It just cut. Oh my god. Dude, why do you never check this shit? Even for a 53-minute video, you gotta check your shit before you upload it. I mean, I had to do that with my Yandere Dev video. Even though that one's like 4.5 hours long, I still had to watch through all the shit to make sure it was good before it was uploaded. I honestly forgot Princess Peach Showtime existed. It only existed because internet artists and had new outfits to draw Peach in. Yeah, that's valid because it's just, I mean, it's also aimed towards like it's a game that's aimed towards younger kids. So honestly, who the fuck is really gonna care about a Princess Peach tie-in game or like spin-off? Like honestly, unless you're a die-hard Mario fan, who's really gonna care? Like honestly. Again, Harman named five Nintendo games of 2024 innovated. Yeah, please do. Please.
It's crazy to look back on, but Tekken 8 was actually going
Tekken
to
8.
be the first ever major AAA game that I had pre-ordered on Steam.
Okay, so preface, never played a Tekken game before. Haven't played Tekken 8, but I don't know, so I don't really know what to make of it. If anybody, you guys here in chat have played Tekken 8, let me know how it was to you guys.
That's right. I was actually going to buy this one because I reasonably enjoyed Tekken 7. I thought the series was on the up and up. I thought they were going to correct things and make improvements and continue to be the best fighting game, non-Nintendo fighting game, I should say, on the market. But what ended up happening was that Tekken 8 was a complete and utter disaster. Like, in pretty much every regard. Not only is the gameplay not at all an improvement over 7, not only have they failed to evolve the formula or the storyline after assuring people that we were going to move past the Mishima saga in 7. Like, in spite of like all the goodwill from fans, everything they did like in 7, getting so much support and love, like they went back on all of it, right? For Tekken 8, they introduced battle passes. They introduced microtransactions. They're having you pay extra money for stages even if you bought the deluxe version of the game. Not that like the
Wait, so is Tekken 8 really like a Okay, so it's sitting at recent reviews 82%, all reviews are 70%. So mostly positive. Seems like people are somewhat enjoying it. But yeah, no, a $70 game on sale right now for $35, but retail $70. And they want to introduce battle passes and microtransactions into this. That's pretty predatory. I won't lie. That's kind of predatory. So maybe Harman's in the right here. Maybe he's in the right. I think like introducing battle passes into a paid game, that's pretty fucking shitty. Like I don't understand that fully. Like if you're gonna have battle passes or microtransactions, your game should be free to play. That's the only time that that anything like that should be in your game, is if your game is free to play. Stop the cap. Harman is only saying about the pre-order to try to dismantle the fact that he is a Nintendrone man-child. He'll do anything to try and disprove that he is a Nintendrone, but there's no way he can do it reliably. He is a Nintendrone through and through, and he'll deny it, but like it's just the truth. My favorite memory of Tekken 8 wasn't playing it, but by encouraging my friends with a gamble, that gamble being win or I'm making them play wheelchair Jenga. Oh my god.
deluxe version of the game should exist to begin with. But when you really look into what Tekken is doing now, when you look and see what they're doing, Like when you look at like Harada's statements on Twitter, when you see like how concerned fans are, when you see just how tepid the reception to this one has been, you see that like this is not a game that has maintained its audience whatsoever. It's a game that has just been a complete train wreck in every way, shape, and form.
I
Like,
should also add to the Battle Pass argument that I just made. So, if you're going to have Battle Passes and microtransactions, your game should be free to play. But in the case of Helldivers 2, you can earn that currency in game just by playing it. In some games, they won't even let you earn that currency just by playing the game, so you don't even have to spend that money for microtransactions. In Helldivers, you kind of have to grind, but you can earn that currency in game, so you don't have to spend a dime on microtransactions if you don't want to. I think that's a perfect solution. So they should make it either easier to earn without dropping any money on microtransactions, or just make the game free to play.
like Tekken 8 lost all of the goodwill that 7 had. And because of the decisions they made in regards to like the microtransactions and like the exploitation of the audience, I think it's safe to say that like I will no longer be supporting the Tekken IP. Like Namco completely dropped the ball with this one. And this is something that we really desperately need to acknowledge and talk about. Tekken is done.
Another
In any
Nintendo game.
other circumstances, Dragon Quest III would probably have been one of my favorite games of the year. I was really looking forward to this. I really thought this was going to be like a really good return to form for Dragon Quest. I thought this would like expose an audience to the classic of Dragon Quest III. I was so
I mean, it probably still has. Like, it's a remake of it, so like it probably has introduced itself to new audiences.
excited about this game. So excited about it. Imagine my disappointment when I realized that Sweet Baby Incorporated got their grubby little paws on it. They did everything they could to ruin this classic in regards to censorship, in regards to like script changes, in regards to removing male and female body types in favor of that like type A and type 2 shit or whatever they do.
Good Tekken fanbase can breathe knowing Harman will not come to Tekken. Okay, yeah, yeah, they can. They can sleep. They can
Like
sleep 7 at
this
night.
was completely unacceptable. So much so that I have decided to completely boycott the game and not support it. And I have been telling my audience to do the same. And hopefully, the core Japanese audience responds in turn. Right? I've heard nothing but bad things about this game from established fans. I've heard people speaking out about this, and it really needs to be understood that not only do we need to boycott Dragon Quest III, we need to boycott Square Enix as a whole. So no Romancing Saga 2, no Neo Fantasian, no, they're remaking Dragon Quest 1 and 2 as well. Like, how badly are they going to butcher those games, right? And what about the future of the franchise? Like, do we want this to keep continuing? The answer is no, right? And we really do need to put a stop to this shit, like immediately. Do not buy this and do not support it. One of the disappointing things about this hardcore gaming season was
Oh,
seeing
okay. Silent Hill 2 remake. Here we fucking go. All right. Now, I loved Silent Hill 2 remake. I honestly thought it was up there with Resident Evil 4 remake. I think it's one of the probably my personal game of the year. I loved it. I thought it was fucking phenomenal. So, let's get into what Harman has to say here.
just how many people came out to shill for Silent Hill 2 remake. So
Shill for it. I mean, I don't know anybody that shilled for it. I just remember hearing a lot leading up to release. It was just like, please just let it be good. Pretty much, like, Bluebird didn't have the best track record. Konami has handled the IP very shittily in the past. Everybody was scared for this because the original is like near perfection. There are some aspects of it that are outdated, but the original is near perfect. So obviously everybody's gonna be fucking scared for this shit. So when it came around to release time and everybody saw that it was good, they were just happy that it was good. Myself included. I was just glad that it was a fucking good game.
many people who should have known better came out and tried to call this game better than the original, that it was some major masterpiece, that Konami was back, that Bloober Team really hit it out of the park, and
Well, they did. They did hit it out of the park. And I don't want to say it's like a full-on masterpiece or that it's better than the original. I don't know anybody that's saying it's better than the original. I will say there are certain aspects of it that I think are better than the original, notably the voice acting. I think the voice acting is considerably better than the original now. Because as someone who didn't grow up playing it, but played it later on down the line, I actually played it for the first time a couple years ago, the voice acting in the remake is just better. It just is. The combat's better, the boss fights are better, atmosphere is still just the same. There's still some aspects of the original that are still great that the remake is just as good, but in areas where it's better are notably the combat, the voice acting, and the boss fights. It's just a much better experience. Exploration throughout like the different areas, you can make arguments on that on which is better. The original is simpler. The remake is more complex, and because of that, the remake is much longer. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily bad. They just expanded upon it, and if that's not your kind of thing, then that's okay. But I don't know. I liked it personally. I like to see them expand upon these new areas and add new and unique things to them.
Even to someone like myself who is not a fan of the original, I could see through this immediately. And
If you're not a fan of the original, then why are you judging the remake? If you don't like the original, then why are you judging the fucking remake then? That makes no sense.
I think most people kind of feel the same way, but that initial wave, right, of people like doing damage control for this game, downplaying all the changes, they got the original developers to come out and like try to shill for it, just like they did for Resident Evil 4 remake and Shinji Mikami. They tried everything they possibly could to gaslight people into thinking this was a well-received remake, but why couldn't they just do it better? Like, why?
But it was a well-received remake. A lot of people who played it, almost everybody who played it has liked it. I mean, you have people like, of course, fucking Under the Mayo that didn't like it, but if that's Under the Mayo. He doesn't like anything that's not Doom Eternal. Of course, there's that crowd of like the fans of the hardcore fans of the original who you're never gonna please. That's gonna happen with remakes for games. You're just gonna have that dedicated group of fans you're never gonna be able to please, regardless of what you do. So I think it's best just to kind of ignore those people and then just focus on creating a great game. And that's exactly what Bloober did. They made a fantastic remake of a genuine classic. Let's see here. I just put it on live chat and I didn't notice you sent another message. I'm sorry, man. Oh no, type A and type B body types. Harman is jealous there isn't an obese type for him. I mean, he should play Baldur's Gate 3. They have body types for literally everything in that game. But he won't play it because I don't fucking know. Like, because it's not Zelda. He won't play it because it's not Zelda. Hey Jake, I'm not a fan of Mario, but I'm going to judge Mario and Luigi brothership and call it a 1 out of 10 rather than eat a cactus than play boring RPG again. I mean, your call, dude.
Why couldn't they do it right? Why did they have like modern sensibilities? Why didn't they just make a good modern remake of the original?
But they did. They did. That's the whole point. They did. They made a good modern remake of the original game. They have the over-the-shoulder camera. They have more modern combat. There's no fixed, like I said, over-the-shoulder camera. There's no fixed camera angles. They redid the entire soundtrack. The only gripe I really have with the game is that the cutscenes are locked to 30 FPS, which is very, very fucking weird to me. I don't know why they decided to do that, but they did. And now, let's see. What else about the game is like more modernized, you could say? I guess like the expanded like exploration, like the expanded maps, and like other new mechanics, like the puzzles they decided to do. Like, I mean, it's more modern in virtually every way, and it's just a great fucking game. Like,
the same exact
and you say that you're not a fan of the original, so why are you harping on the remake if you're not really a big fan of the original? That doesn't make sense.
thing, but I had no faith in them to begin with. Honestly, I would have rather them just
Okay, and that I would say that that is valid. Like, nobody really had faith in Konami or Bloober leading up to release. But once it came out, everybody was like, hey, I'm glad to be wrong. This is a great fucking game.
re-release the original with no changes, right? Nobody wanted this. And yet, for some reason,
Not nobody wanted it. There are probably a handful of people that probably wanted it. I mean, like, I heard rumblings before it was officially announced that there was going to be a Silent Hill 2 remake, and I was like, okay, here are the things that I personally would want changed. I want new voice acting, because the voice acting in the original is... It has a certain charm to it because it's an older game, but it's not great. So I'll take new voice acting, better combat, and if they can enhance the boss fights in any way, perfect. Then don't really change anything else. You can like, enhance the map, make it like more explorable, more complex to navigate. That's fine. And that's what I would expect out of a remake. But in things that need to be changed, voice acting, boss fights, and combat. That's it. Those are the only things that really, really needed to change. And they did it in a great way. It's all really good.
they decided to do it anyway. It's appalling to me. And hopefully with time, much like Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake, people begin to come out and like start acknowledging this game and its problems. To me, it couldn't be more obvious that like the audience for these remakes are not the people who actually play and enjoy the original games. To me,
Okay, I'm about to prove you wrong right here. So, I play the original game. I have here the enhanced edition. The enhanced edition mod installed. I also have the fucking, what's it called? The over-the-shoulder camera mod for the original. I've played and beaten the original several times. It's just really, really good. So, if you like the remake, apparently you don't like the original. That just doesn't make sense to me because I have a whole series on my channel where I played and beat the original game. I've played and beaten. I played through it like 3 times right before the remake came out. What kind of argument is this? It just doesn't make sense. Also, Jake, if Harman believes everything in numbers of sales, wait until he hears about that Wukong game had 18 to 19 million in sales, beat Mario Brothers ship 13 million sales. He would probably he would come out and say that those numbers are fake. He would say that those numbers are fake, and I don't get it. I don't understand why he would try to make the argument that those are fake. He's also trying to say that the PS2 or Sony has inflated the PS2 sales numbers to try and stay ahead of the Switch. When no, they haven't.
me, it seems like the people who unironically like think Silent Hill 2 Remake is good are people who really didn't understand anything about the original to begin with, who really don't.
Dude, trust me, I've beaten the game like 4 or 5 times. I understand plenty about the original, and the same tone and atmosphere that original had, the remake has as well, and it improves upon what was wrong with the original. It's not perfect. I'm not going to say your Silent Hill 2 Remake is perfect, but it's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good.
Don't know anything about it. And that's my perspective on it. As someone who's not like really engaged with the Silent Hill community, it feels like the people who are enabling this are only doing so in order to fit in order to like, yo, Silent Hill 2 is the greatest game ever. I'm such a huge fan of like, they have no real understanding of what made the original so good to begin with.
Wait, so you're saying now? Okay, you just said you're not really a fan of the original. Now you're saying it's good? Pick one, Harman. Pick one. I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, but like, if you're gonna say you're not a fan of it, why are you saying that it's good? That you're not making sense here, brother. You're just not.
To me, like that mindset really needs to be disregarded and should be condemned by fans. I don't think this game deserves any respect whatsoever.
But it's good.
Imagine being so starved for game.
Okay, of course he's gonna put Stellar Blade on here. Okay, I've heard Stellar Blade is a pretty fun game. I've heard it's pretty fun. I haven't played it myself, but I've heard it's pretty fun. And apparently there are plans for a PC port to come on down the line. I won't pick it up day one, but I'll probably pick it up and play it because I've heard it's pretty good. I want to give it a try. But of course he's gonna hate on it because everyone was freaking out about most sexualized female protagonist. So
that you start hyping up an exclusive purely because the female characters are somewhat attractive. Imagine being so down bad that you buy a PS5 just to see Eve in her skin tight like spacesuit. Never mind that like
But you do the same thing with Zero Suit Samus in any fucking Metroid game. You would do the same exact fucking thing.
better looking characters on Nintendo hardware exist. Never mind that Sony in general has a policy against this kind of thing. Never mind the censorship. Never mind the game itself sucks shit. And never mind.
You're gonna say it sucks without even playing it. You're gonna say it sucks without playing it.
All of that.
That's expected from you,
let's
though,
just
Harman.
hype this game up because we have nothing else to play. That is the PlayStation audience. This was one of the year's most embarrassing releases for that reason, is that the Coomers could not shut up about how much they wanted to bang Eve. When you really get down to it, that is the only reason anybody cared about this.
He literally made a short about him and a fictional woman. Oh, I know. He also likes to write fanfics about him and fictional women too. So like, and in his novels, he writes these male characters as his self inserts.
At all.
Okay.
Early this year,
there are a lot more Nintendo games on here than I thought there would be. I was expecting there to be like one just to give himself credit, but no, there's actually quite a bit on here. I'm surprised.
I gave a statement about how Splatoon 3 Side Order was one of my most anticipated games of 2000.
Now, I would actually love to play some Splatoon. I'd love to give it a shot, but I don't want to pay online for a I don't want to have to pay to play online, and I don't want to have to like drop like the full price on it because it never goes on sale on Switch. I just don't want to pay the full price for it, and like I just said, I don't want to have to pay to play online. I just don't. That's why I love PC so much, because you don't have to pay to play online. Also, he likes to write about Mickey Mouse violating underage princesses. Wait, he does? What? Where is this? Is this on his like Archive of Our Own page or something? Where is that at? Holy shit! I missed out on some of that Harman lore. Jesus.
2024. I had loved Splatoon 2 Octopass. I considered it one of the best single-player shooter campaigns we've ever gotten. I considered it a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite Nintendo things ever, right? Octopass expansion was an indication of just how good Splatoon is going to be, right? And for Splatoon 3 as a whole, there was no evolution for that, right? Splatoon 3 did a really poor job advancing
Archive of Our Own. Okay, I'll have to check that later.
Like the lore and the setting and doing anything new or fresh and exciting. And for people like me, it felt as if we were waiting for the DLC, right? It felt like the expansion was going to like really give the game a lot of new life and give it new mechanics and stuff like that. And it did when it finally came out 2 years later. But what we got was this really boring, uninspired roguelike structure where you just run around these plain rooms fighting enemies endlessly, right? There was no creativity, there was no charm, there was no appeal to it. The story wasn't.
Okay, I wish I would have thought about this earlier until now, but like, why is he putting a DLC on the worst games of the year of the year? Why are you putting a DLC here? It's not a full game. It's an expansion. Just like how they bended the rules to get Shadow of the Erdtree nominated for Game of the Year, because this year was such a dry spell, it doesn't make sense to me. Why is it here? Because it's not a full game.
Interesting, right? When you really get down to it, like everything about this DLC is honestly some of the worst content Nintendo has produced ever. Like, it's such a weird, like, contrast, especially since, like, generally speaking, I really, really, really did enjoy Splatoon 3 as a whole. But when you really look at, like, how they handled the characters, the story, the general gameplay structure, like, all of this is stuff that I hate. Like, I cannot stand anything about the expansion to the point where I have never once been tempted to return to it. Like, I've gone back to Splatoon 3 like several times after this DLC launched. I have never felt the urge to go back.
Damn, Harman got desperate for games. He had to use DLC. Exactly. Like not just for like almost everything else in the space. Nintendo had a pretty dry year too. Except for maybe Mario and Luigi Brothership. That was probably the most notable game that came out this year. Everything else was just like nothing. Like they didn't really have anything that came out this year. Nothing interesting anyway.
Can play this again. Like, every single time I think about it, I'm just kind of like, ugh. And there are like reasons outside of the core game design for that reaction. There are some weird localization changes where they try to pass off like one of the characters as non-binary, and the stupid like Yuri shit between Pearl and Marina gets really annoying. Like, there's all of that was like just ruined the localization of something that probably wasn't all that good to begin with. It's just so grating to see like the absolute worst of Nintendo just go completely unnoticed. Like, this is like the big thing that I feel about this game in particular, is that like I don't see enough people like really acknowledge how bad this game actually is. Like, I really don't see it. And I suppose it gets buried.
Again, a DLC is not a full game. It's an expansion. Stop the cap. He hates Splatoon 3 because Splatoon 3 states to have no gender. I mean, yeah, he would hate it for that reason.
Under like the criticism that like Splatoon 3 like did not deserve to have, but it's worth pointing out just how awful this was to begin with. Like, there is just nothing good about Side Order at all. Like, it is a complete and total disaster, and hopefully Nintendo moves away from this with the sequels. If Stellar
Helldivers 2. Okay. Helldivers 2 is probably one of the best co-op experiences I have personally ever had. I love hopping onto this game and playing with friends. I really do. It's one of the most fun online multiplayer experiences I think I've ever had. It's one of my new main games that I really love to play. So for this to be here, of course he can't play it because he doesn't have a PS5 or a PC. But for this to be here, this dude, Helldivers 2 is great. It just goes to show that he doesn't have any friends to play with.
Stellar Blade was the counterculture for the Coomers. This is the counterculture release for the FPS crowd. You know, the alt-right, like the scum that hate PlayStation's like woke direction. Like, oh, we're all just gonna rally behind unironic fascism because we hate woke PlayStation so much.
It has nothing to do with the PlayStation or Sony being woke. It's just the fact that the game is really fun. I mean, yeah, the whole like Super Earth and like the Helldivers sacrificing themselves in the name of Super Earth is over the top and kind of cheesy, but that adds to the charm to it. That just adds more charm to it. It's just fun. And on top of that, the gameplay is just fucking awesome. It's really fun. Harman has this game in the worst games because he had a skill issue, but also odd he calls it a third-person shooter in FPS. Yeah, I thought that was weird too, but I let it slide because, I mean, Harman says wrong shit all the time. I don't care to correct him.
So for some reason, people looked at this like no-name Starship Troopers knockoff product.
No-name Starship Troopers knockoff. This was one of the most successful games of the year, and when Sony decided that they wanted to get their grummy little hands in there and try and make a mandatory PSN account for the game, people went crazy for that. And then they backpedaled and said, "Okay, we're not going to do it." And now they're doing it to every other PlayStation exclusive that's going to PC. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is not No Name. This is a massive deal. Like, dude.
About some guys going on some on planets and fighting bugs. Like they tried to make this out to be some like stellar, like high quality.
I mean, yeah, you do go to planets and fight bugs, but you're also forgetting about the robots. You're forgetting about the automatons, some of the most fun you could have in Helldivers. And there's apparently new enemies that got added to the game. I still haven't checked out the new update. I really want to though. I've just been too busy with Baldur's Gate 3 and Marvel Rivals.
Quality release, right? They tried to say this was one of the best games of the year in like February or whatever it came out. And people
Because you could already tell by how fun it is with friends and just how fun the game is to play. Like it's just that fun to play. It's just that good. I don't know what more you want me to say. It's just that good. It's an incredible game.
bought on into it because they had nothing else to play. And for a while there, this was all anybody could talk about,
Or it's not about, maybe less about that they don't have anything else to play, but more so about how it's so unique and separate from everything else in the genre. It was like so new and fresh to people, and that's why people latched onto it, because not only was it just good, it was new and unique. That's why people love it so much, is because it's something new, something we haven't really gotten before.
play was because there was nothing else, right? It was like the knack of its time. It's something that like came out, got an audience that would worship it, but over a period of time, with the company's inability to keep up with like the demands of the audience, with like balancing issues, with just the sheer
And I feel like he would also trash on this just because the only like online competitive shooter that Nintendo has is Splatoon. So the only thing he can really try to compare it to is Splatoon, even though they're separate. They're two like completely separate games.
repetitiveness of the game, because of like some woke backlash. Grums like spoke out about this. Like what ends up happening is that the game just kind of like gradually faded away to the point where like you don't even really see anybody talk about it anymore.
No, it just got a huge influx of players. See, is it still here? Yep, 87K. It was up to over 100,000 whenever the new update dropped, but it's still at 87K right now. That's impressive. They're still doing pretty fucking well, man. More people are jumping onto Pal World too. That's just crazy. That's just crazy to me. That you're just gonna say that it faded into obscurity and that nobody's talking about it anymore. People are still playing the game, especially because it got a new update.
When this was supposedly one of the biggest releases of the year, right? So to
And
me,
it was one of the most it was one of the biggest releases of the year. Like 400K all-time peak. That's insane. I don't remember anyone talking about games like Mario and Luigi Brothership. I have a guy in my Discord, actually a YouTuber friend in my Discord server, who talked about it because he loves Mario games and he was genuinely excited for the game. So that him and Harman are probably the only two people I've really heard talk about it, because I also saw that Mario and Luigi Brothership had like virtually no advertising. Just like Mario Wonder last year, it had no advertising. I didn't even know this game existed until I saw Harman and my friend in the Discord server talk about it. I didn't even know it was a thing until then. Like, Nintendo needs to do better about marketing their games if they want them to do good. Which, I mean, 13 million is still not bad for a game that had virtually no advertising. But still, like, they do need to do better about advertising their games if they want more people to reach them. Here, I kind of wanted. The streaming screen right here. This is Helldivers. This is over the past 24 hours. Like, look at this. People are looking up more about Helldivers now than Mario and Luigi Brothership. That is tough, man. Nobody's looking at this shit like at all. Helldivers 2 is just more popular. Like it just is. Like lots of people are still talking about Helldivers. I don't hear anybody talking about Mario and Luigi Brothership. I really don't. Voice crack, sorry, but I have my YouTuber friend who talked about it, and then Harman obviously, but nobody's really talking about it. So I don't know.
It's going to be really interesting seeing this
out.
game gradually fall off. You know, the way that like Killzone or Horizon fell off. Like it reminds me a lot.
Damn, that Brothership sank harder than the Titanic. Damn, dude.
Out of that, where this is something that the community worships and like wants to see succeed and wants to like stand for something that it really doesn't, right? They really thought this was some epic own against the Wokies, right? This was some epic like
It wasn't about that. It was just about the fact that it was fun and it was new and unique. Like no, we hadn't really gotten a game like this before. That's what it was about. It's not about some epic own against the Wokies. Get pwned, losers. Like no, it's not about that. It's just a genuinely fun game, but I guess Harman doesn't know anything about fun.
Political statement game. And they rallied behind it for that reason. But at the end of the day, like what actually matters is the actual gameplay. You know, like
yeah,
people make this mistake. I keep saying this all the time. You can't judge games based on the political opinions of the developers. So
who cares? Who the fuck cares about the political opinions of the developers? Who fucking cares, man? It's just a video game. Play it and have fun. The political opinions of the developers are irrelevant. You're the only one here crying about the political opinions of developers.
Even if Helldivers was based, even if they were all voting for Trump, even though they're like, I don't know, from the Netherlands or something, even if they all were like illegally...
Dude, just do your fucking research.
So like, voting for Trump,
that's all I have to
like
say.
that doesn't make them better than other developers, right? Like they, at their core, they did not produce a very good game. And
well, who the fuck cares about what their political ideologies are unless they're like saying some absolutely like actual bullshit, like, you know, unless they're being hateful bigots, then why the fuck do you care? Like, why do you care about the political opinions of these developers so much? Answer me that, Harman. Why? Why do you care? Bro, I did some research in Battlefield 1, a game from 2018, outsold games like Mario Wonder and Mario Luigi Brothership. Dude, that's what I'm saying. Why doesn't Nintendo do advertising for their newest Mario games, like their flagship titles? Why don't they advertise these games more? They didn't even advertise Tears of the Kingdom last year. And that outsold Baldur's Gate 3. Like, why?
There was this very stubborn refusal from the community to acknowledge that or talk about that at all. They just kept making excuse after excuse after excuse for a long time until it all collapsed by March. By the time that like something else came out and distracted people and everyone just forgot this game ever existed. This was...
No one forgot the game existed. It's just that, of course, with the PSN account debacle, people started, like, you know, like, review bombing the game, which is actually fair. And then people, fuck. I mean, that was really the only thing that I could really know of. Nobody really, like, put it down. I mean, like, there was also a lot of balancing stuff that caused people to put the game down. But then once that was fixed, and then they made the game actually fun, which was pretty recently, and because of the new update, it saw a huge boost in players again. The game is still very popular. It's been popular all year.
One of the major embarrassments of the year. Speaking of games that were only propped up out of this idea that they were somehow anti-woke, Black Myth Wukong is a really...
Okay, Black Myth Wukong. I knew this one was going to be on here because he just absolutely despises Souls-likes. Well, I guess this one isn't really a Souls-like because I've heard it plays more like God of War 2018, which kind of confused me because it looks like it would play a lot similarly to Sekiro, if anything. But regardless, this is a game I still really want to try. I've heard good things about Black Myth Wukong. I've heard it's probably one of the best games of the year. And I do really want to try it. I do. It's just that I'm also sad that it didn't go on sale for the Steam Winter Sale. I'm very disappointed by that, so I can't pick it up while it's I'll pick it up when it goes on sale eventually, but I wish it would have went on sale for the Steam Winter Sale, so that way I could have actually picked it up and started playing it. But I will pick it up eventually, and I do really want to try it. But it is also very interesting to see it on this list because, again, it's got overwhelmingly here. Interrupt streaming. It's got 98 recent reviews, 96% all reviews. People love this game, man. It seems like pretty much everybody who has played it really likes it. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Good example of just how a mediocre product will be propped up and worshipped simply for not falling in line with Western game development values. It does.
Well, you did the exact same thing with Princess Peach Showtime. It was just a mediocre well, I can't say it's mediocre because I've never played it. But seems like the general consensus around it is that it was a mediocre product, and you tried to prop it up as like the best thing in the industry right now when all it is a spin-off and nothing new or really like unique or interesting. It's also aimed towards kids. So like you're trying to hype it up as like the best thing in the industry when there are other games out there that are just likely better. Like, how much we bet that Wukong sales versus Tears of the Kingdom sales are close? Oh, they're I don't know how close they would be actually. I bet they would be pretty close. If anything, I'd say that Black Myth Wukong was maybe short by like a few million, maybe even 4 million, something like that. I know Tears of the Kingdom is really close. Like it's like neck and neck with Elden Ring in terms of sales.
It doesn't matter that we've gotten better Journey to the West products in the past. It doesn't matter that it's a played out story, that the game isn't very good, that it's a rehash of us From Slop, that the game just doesn't.
I love how he likes to call FromSoft From Slop. It's so stupid. He's literally like a fucking man-child because he likes to talk like this. Oh, hey, Red Green, welcome back.
Doesn't really have anything going for it, that it's not all that impressive, that it's not all that fun to play. Like, what matters is that, like, oh man, it has attractive ladies in it, so that means it's better. Like, instead of like really processing what you're looking at and realizing that, like, wait a minute, this isn't very good. And I've been saying this since this game was announced, and I do feel like people need to understand this. I don't believe this is a game that the gaming establishment wanted to fail. If that was true, they wouldn't be talking about it at the game.
Well, no one wants any game to fail. I think everyone wants literally any game to succeed. Like, unless it's just like, something that's being made for like pure like political reasons or something like that, like if they're making a game that's like bigoted for the sake of being bigoted, then yeah, that absolutely deserves to fail. But I think for the most part, no game should really be made to fail, or like anyone should want a game to fail. But in your case, you just wanted it to fail because it's not made by Nintendo. Princess Peach Showtime only exists for people that simp for her. It's not just that. I think young girls would get a kick out of playing a game with like a female protagonist like Princess Peach. Like I think like that is like the target audience for that kind of demographic. Or no, that's the main target for the game. I'm sorry. I'm just more mad that Wukong didn't win Game of the Year. We could have ended the year with more monkey memes. We could have. We really could have, but unfortunately we didn't. And also I heard Harman saying that the devs, whenever Black Myth Wukong didn't win Game of the Year, the devs for the game started crying and like throwing a tantrum because they didn't win. And Harman tried saying that didn't happen. So, I mean, I wasn't there, so I can't say definitively whether or not it did or didn't happen. But he's trying to say it didn't happen. And he actually got on camera and got really fucking mad about it. So, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Awards now, right? Like, if that was true, you wouldn't be hearing about it at all. The way that they don't talk about Nintendo products, right? Like, if that was
the reason nobody talks about Nintendo products is because they didn't release jack shit this year. I mean, you have what? Princess Peach Showtime, Mario and Luigi Brothers ship. And then what else came out this year? Echoes of Wisdom, that Zelda spinoff. But aside from that, what else came out? Didn't Harman throw a tantrum over Nintendo not being in Game of the Year? I think he threw a tantrum over Nintendo not winning a single award this year. He keeps saying that he doesn't care about the Game Awards and that he's not going to talk about them or watch them. I don't doubt that he didn't watch them, but he's still talking about them and coping over it. Like,
idea that this game is unpopular with game journals seems to have no merit at all, and yet the audience keeps like repeating that over and over and over again, as if it like means something, or as if like this is a game that left an impact. Like it sold 20 million units, yeah, to a Chinese audience.
what? So you're saying that every one of those 20 million people who bought the game are Chinese because the developers are Chinese. So because it came from a Chinese studio, that automatically means it's popular in China, which I don't doubt that it is, but it's also pretty popular over here in America too. Like, a lot of people over here really like Black Myth Wukong. I'm just saying, man.
So like again, I feel like people don't understand that like Journey to the West is their thing. It's gonna do well no matter what. And like I don't think necessarily that really has much of a bearing on how we should discuss it. Like, who cares how many units it sells or how much money it makes? Like, is the game good? Is the question we should be bringing up. And
well, then why do you always bring it up as like a gotcha against other games? You always like to bring up the fact that whenever the numbers came out from Larian on how much Baldur's Gate 3 sold, you love to use that as a gotcha that Tears of the Kingdom sold more. So what the fuck are you doing? Why are you trying to pretend like this doesn't matter, but you continue to use it as a gotcha when Nintendo or a Nintendo property does better than another game? Why do you do this? You always do this, Harman. You always say like this stuff isn't relevant, nobody should be using this as metrics. You should just be, is the game good? And then you do a 180 and then use those examples against non-Nintendo games and try to use that as proof that it's better. Please, just have some self-awareness for once, Harman. Please. And yet Mario & Luigi Brothership, a AAA game, couldn't even break 15 million sales. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Joke. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
this is the thing that gets these people every single time. Like, in regards to Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 and this and everything else on the list. Like, when you really get down to
Did he say Baldur's Gate 3?
This is the thing that gets these people every single time. Like, in regards to Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 and this.
Dudes, just say the name correctly. Why do you always have to be so fucking childish when it comes to stuff you don't like?
And everything else on the list. Like, when you really get down to it, like, these games are not very good. The fact that, like, you're looking...
Maybe play them before you start saying shit. I will give you the benefit of the doubt when it comes to Elden Ring, because you did play it, and you're allowed to not like it, okay? But when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3 and fucking Black Myth Wukong, you need to show proof of you playing it before you can judge it, okay? Because I have a hard time believing you're spending buttloads of money on all these brand new games before calling them trash. I just have a hard time believing that. You know Avid Alchemist? No, I'm not really familiar. At this point, Nintendo should take points from EA and just recycle their games and change nothing. Oh, wait. That's exactly what they're doing at this point.
At this game, and you're talking about, like, political culture and, like, the Western gaming sphere and, like, the propaganda and the narratives that they put out there in regards to certain products. You're not talking about the actual game. And that's the really strong indication I get by looking at Black Myth Wukong.
But people are talking about the game. People are saying that the game is good. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, people are talking... Nobody's talking about the studios. Nobody's talking about, like, the publishers. Nobody's talking about jack shit except for the fucking game and that it's good.
That the actual game has not left an impression on anyone. This is not a good adaptation of Journey to the West. It's not going to be remembered as an adequate video game adaptation. It's not going to be like remembered
I love it.
as this.
I love it when you pause and then just proceed to not say anything until you make your next point. Like, instead of just editing it out and then trying again.
Massive game of the year contender thing. Right? No, this is just another flavor of the month from Slop Clone.
Flavor of the month from Slop Clone. Dude. That's not exactly what it is. If it was nominated for Game of the Year, then no, it's not a flavor of the month game. That's not how that works. Wukong Monkey game as a title would have sold more based on meme culture. Oh yeah, you know it would have. It absolutely would have. All right.
One of the things I've been trying to do in regards to
okay.
the gaming space is kind of emphasize how like the politicalization of games has.
This is one I can actually kind of agree with being on here. We got fucking Concord. Okay, Concord, biggest disaster, biggest flop in gaming history. It actually is like it's the biggest failure. Like it overtook E.T. on the Atari as the biggest failure in gaming history. That is insane to me. I've never seen anything bomb harder than this. This was just actually crazy to me. And I knew before it released that like the hero shooter market was oversaturated and there's plenty of options, and for them charging $40 for it, like, of course, that was already a bad idea for a live service game. You got to pay a fee to play online and pay for the game on top of that, and then you're going to possibly pay for microtransactions and battle passes. That's just too much money in the gutter at that point. So obviously, it probably wasn't going to do well, but I still expected it to do like decent because it's a AAA game from PlayStation. I expected it to do pretty well, but no. Well, not pretty well, but like decently well. You know, I expected it to have like kind of a healthy amount of players. I didn't expect it to be a complete fucking wasteland though. Like, holy shit. Here, let me pull up the Here we go, right here. Of course, there's no one in the game. 697 concurrent players. That's bad. Wait, one in a 24-hour peak? Who hopped on? Who was able to hop on here? Was it a developer or like who was able to hop on in a 24-hour peak? Who? That doesn't make sense, dude. What the fuck? Okay. I'm not going to question it, I guess, because maybe there's something happening. I don't know, but 697 players. It couldn't even break 1,000 players when it released. That's bad. That's really bad for a live service shooter. That's bad, dude. Is the atmosphere of Resident Evil 4 or The Last of Us better? Honestly, it just they're kind of different. I mean, they are kind of like they're both kind of like survival horror games, but in terms of atmosphere, I think I like Resident Evil 4's atmosphere better. And that's not to dig on The Last of Us's atmosphere because it's pretty good. Like, you know, the apocalyptic, in terms of the apocalyptic atmosphere, honestly, Last of Us is up there as like goated for being for having a good apocalyptic atmosphere. It's just great. Wait, Concord released? I thought it got canceled. No, it actually got released. Yeah, it released for like 2 weeks and then it got canned. Garbage, just can't wait for better. Yeah, I can't wait for better either. Marvel Rivals is honestly like the only thing that could really compete with it at this point, and it's good. Marvel Rivals is a genuinely good game. Damn, that single soul was tricked.
Resulted in people
let's
like
see what Harman has
making
to say about
fun of certain
Concord.
titles and ignoring others, right? So for this year, the big target for anti-SJW, like anti-woke content creators has been Concord. The biggest failure in PlayStation's history, right? It spent like 8 years,
Yeah.
$800 million in development to produce this
Wait, $800 million. Hold
PlayStation's
on.
history, right? It spent like 8 years, $800 million in development.
No. Okay, it had 8 years in development. You were right on that part. Well, actually, no. The 8 years part, I've only seen one person bring this up, and honestly, ever since they brought it up, it hasn't made sense to me. They said that Concord was in development for 8 years, but the studio, the developers that made it, Firewalk, wasn't established until 2018. So that would mean that if the game was in development for 8 years, it would have started in 2016, but they weren't founded until 2018. So, was it in development by another studio and then it got passed over to Firewalk, or what was the case? What's the case there? Because the math ain't mathin'. Like, and no, the game did not cost $800 million to make. Close to $1 billion? No, that's outrageous for a game like this. I think it was closer to $400 million, which is still an insane budget for a game like this. That is insane. So first it was $200 million, and then I think whenever it went to alpha, it was still in a laughably bad state. So Sony threw another $200 million in there to get it fixed, and then released on time. This whole game is just a fucking mess, man. I have a lot to say about Concord. I really do. I have a lot to say about Concord. It's just not only the fact that it was in development for allegedly 8 years, $400 million down the gutter to release to, like, was it like 1,500 players on PlayStation, and then couldn't even crack 700 on PC. That's just mind-blowing to me. And then they shut it down after 14 days. And they were exploring other avenues on, like, where to take the game or maybe start a new project, and then Firewalk just ended up getting closed. Like, holy shit. Like, everything surrounding this game is just fascinating to me. The fact that it even exists at all and still got released in 2024 as a $40 game is fucking insane to me. Like, I just can't believe it. I can't believe this game was real. Damn, Harman even can't even get the facts of a terrible game right. I know. Okay, well, I don't know if I want to say... Okay, I can see the argument of it being terrible by it just being so generic that it's just bad. I can understand that. But I have heard from people who played it that it wasn't, like, the worst thing ever. I heard that it just wasn't really, like, you know... I heard that it wasn't great. I heard that it was, like, just aggressively mediocre. But I heard that, like, it didn't necessarily feel that bad to play. It's just that the alternatives to it were leagues better, is what I've heard. So, yeah, you could make the argument that it's, like, that it is bad, that it's terrible, but I don't know. You could also make the argument that it's not the worst thing ever, you know? Like it was functional, like it wasn't riddled with bugs or glitches when it first came out, so there's a plus right there, but that's also like saying they got my order right at a restaurant. That's the bare minimum. A game should function properly when it releases. Thoughts on GameSpot, IGN, What Culture, and Game Ranks? Okay, well, the only thing about What Culture I watch is, like, What Culture Wrestling, because I'm a wrestling fan. So sometimes I like to watch the ups and downs for an episode of Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or the pay-per-view that happened last month. I like to watch those sometimes, but I don't really watch any, like, game journalism or anything like that. I think it's all very unreliable because IGN is just a joke. They give, like, a 7 out of 10 to, like, all the, like, aggressively good stuff that comes out, and then anything that's either mediocre or just trash, they just give like higher scores. Like, they gave The Last of Us Part 2 a 10 out of 10, which I think is laughable. And then GameSpot gave Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated a 2 out of 10. That just made me not trust gaming journalism. I mean, I never really trusted it to begin with, but, like, it's all just terrible. You can't trust what any of these people say. You have to play the game to find out. Sorry, voice crack. You have to play the game to find out what your opinion is, what your own opinion is on it. And even though that is a lot of money to go down the drain, you got to play it to get some, like, you know, time out of it. So really the only way to know an opinion on a game is to play it for yourself. You can't really trust gaming journalism at all.
Produce this game that bombed instantly. Nobody liked it. Nobody enjoyed it. And instead of asking why, pointing out the gameplay mechanics, the flaws in the design, like things like that. Instead,
That is what people pointed out, though. They pointed out that not only were the movement speed was just like aggressively slow, the character designs were ugly and forgettable. The map design was nothing too unique or really interesting. None of the heroes were really fun to play. Like it was just a nothing kind of a nothing game. Like there was just nothing unique or interesting about it. That's what everyone was complaining about.
people pointed to like unappealing character designs and like the wokeness of PlayStation as a whole.
It had nothing to do with being woke. I mean, yeah, there were people who were bringing up the wokeness aspects of it. Like, honestly, the only questionable thing about it to me in terms of quote unquote wokeness was the robot having pronouns. Like, why does a robot have pronouns? That part didn't make sense to me. But everything else, I don't care. If they want to have pronouns, so what? Who the fuck cares? It's like a heels versus babyface getting mad over Starfield all over again. Like, why do you care if they have pronouns? Why does it matter? It's just not important at all.
As a justification as to why.
But also, I think the character design being unappealing is a very valid argument, because if you want to play as these characters, the first thing that hooks you in when you see them is what they look like. So if you're like, hey, they look interesting, maybe I'll give them a shot. That's like an important factor, is that they need to look visually appealing if you want to try them out. And Concord's characters just didn't look appealing. They just didn't.
When really, I don't necessarily think that's the core problem. And honestly is something.
I mean, you're right. No, it's not the core problem. The core problem was that it was just aggressively mediocre, and that it was $40 in an already oversaturated market where every alternative is free to play.
Thing that I wish wasn't really talked about in game dev circles at all, right? Like, I think we should be advocating for talking about the games themselves and not like the developers' political opinions or how they may.
Oh my god, again with the political opinions and stuff. Nobody's fucking talking about that. Everybody's talking about the game. Everybody was talking about the game. Again, how slow it was, how unappealing the character designs are, how just not fun it really was, how the maps are nothing special. Like, it's just... No, everyone is talking about how not special this game was, and just kind of how everything in the market was better than this. Everybody was talking about the game itself. Nobody was talking about the pronouns. Nobody was talking about that. You're the only one here bringing it up.
Influence game design decisions. To me, like, the obsession with hating Concord didn't really make any sense. Even though the game is clearly very...
So what franchise starting from Gen 6 or the PS2 do you think will stay buried? God, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, one of my all-time favorite games on the PS2, which was a Barnyard spin-off game, it's not getting a remake. I know it's not. Even though I want a remake for it really badly, it's not gonna happen. That's gonna stay dead in the water, and I can either emulate it or find a way to pirate it, but there's just no way that that's getting a remake. So, but a franchise, in terms of franchises, I'm not sure, man. I can't really think of anything from like the PS2 era that would like stay buried. I can't really think of anything.
Terrible. And again, this is kind of the issue when it comes to woke, anti-woke stuff, is that they're not wrong when talking about how these games are getting worse, but what's often the case is that they don't necessarily know why, because this was a problem long before Concord. It was long before woke culture took over, right? Like, that isn't really the problem. And yet you constantly see these people like acting like it is. To me, like, Concord is an example of just how PlayStation just cannot create new IPs. They can't.
I mean, they can create new IPs. I think the problem is that they just don't want to. They'd rather just remake and remaster all of their newer stuff because that's what made them the most money. I think what they should be doing instead, however, is if they want to remaster or remake anything, they should do that for Bloodborne, because that's also going to print them the most money. Like, I just don't understand their mindset Like it's not that they're not unwilling to make new IPs. It's just that they don't want to. That's the problem. I think Gen Seva has a plethora. Resistance says hi. I think Killzone is also probably gonna stay dead. I don't think they're gonna bring Killzone back at all.
Innovate or do anything new that we haven't seen before. They can't improve on old formulas or grow their brands in any meaningful capacity. So like when you look at that history with franchises like Jak and Daxter and Uncharted and The Last of Us, like why would you even bother with a new PlayStation exclusive? That's what I want to know. And
it's because it could potentially be good. Like I know people are kind of shitting on Intergalactic, the new Naughty Dog IP, but honestly, I'm just glad to see a new IP from Naughty Dog. They've been milking The Last of Us so much over the years that I'm just glad to finally see something new from them. It might not be anything particularly interesting or special, but at least it's new. At least it's new.
To me, like I lost faith in the brand a long time ago. So to me, I think that's like a way stronger reason to not support their new IPs. To me, I think PlayStation does a lot worse than this. To me, I don't necessarily think this is one of the worst releases of the year.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because it very much is one of the worst releases of the year. Couldn't even crack 700 players on Steam. Had like 13 to 1500 on PlayStation, and they shut it down after 2 weeks. Nobody liked this game. It was like the Joker 2 of video games. Nobody liked it, so they just took it off the market and refunded everybody. This was hands down one of the worst games of the year, man.
But then again,
but you could also say, I mean, you said it's not the worst game of the year, but it's also on your list. It's on your worst of the games list. Plus, PlayStation has not done... I don't think they've done worse than this. I really don't think they have.
nobody thinks that because nobody actually played it.
I mean, yeah, there weren't a whole lot of people playing it, but like the few people that did said that maybe like that it was just aggressively mediocre, like it wasn't anything great. I mean, I knew JTech was gonna simp for it from the beginning. Like I knew he would simp for it from the beginning, but I mean anybody else, like yeah, they'll tell you that it's just aggressively mediocre.
Elden Ring has been one of the most overhyped
Shadow of the
titles
Erdtree.
in the 2020s. People assured me right from the get-go that the DLC would be Game of the Year. This would be some major milestone in gaming. This would...
Okay, I'm going to stop right here. So, I made a video on the DLC. I said that I didn't particularly like it all that much. And I think that the base game is better. I think that the DLC is harder for the wrong reasons. And that no matter what I tried, I thought the bosses were just way too aggressive. And that it was just like what they did to inflate the difficulty in Shadow of the Erdtree just isn't fun, in my opinion. I didn't like it that much compared to the base game. And I know a lot of people disagreed with me on that. My video got ratioed pretty hard, but I still haven't changed my mind. I don't really feel that I don't know. I just didn't really like it all that much. But I wouldn't say it was one of the worst things of the year. It was certainly better than Concord, for instance. I mean, they're not comparable in the slightest, but it was no Concord. Like, it wasn't the worst thing to release this year, but it just wasn't my favorite thing ever. And I still think that, like, Elden Ring, it's not my favorite Souls title. Like, I don't think it's bad or anything, but it's not the best Souls game ever made, in my opinion. And the fact that we're getting a spin-off to it, too, kind of scares me. As overrated as Margot Robbie? I wouldn't say that. I'd say Shadow of the Erdtree is more overrated than, I don't know, probably Taylor Swift. I think that's a good comparison to make.
Like, prove that... I remember people saying that, like, Shadows of the Erdtree would outperform The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom like when it came out in 2022. But not only did FromSlop delay their game a year so they wouldn't have to compete with Zelda, The actual final product that took 2 years to make was an underwhelming.
Well, it didn't take 2 years to make. It was probably in development for longer, but they just delayed it by 2 years because that's probably the amount of time it took to make this massive expansion. Believe it or not, art takes time. You also had to wait, what, like 6, 7 years to get Tears of the Kingdom after Breath of the Wild came out? Why are you using this as like a point? It's just not. You had to wait longer to get Tears of the Kingdom after Breath of the Wild came out. So why are you using 2 years as like a massive wait time?
Mess filled with rehashed content, boring boss fights, and really unfortunate.
Boring boss fights. Okay, the boss fights are not boring. I mean, yeah, there's rehashed content. Tears of the Kingdom entered the chat. But the boss fights I wouldn't consider boring. It's just that they're hard in the wrong way. I don't find them very fun to fight. I think there are bosses in games like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 that are hard, but are much more entertaining to fight than the bosses in Elden Ring, in my opinion.
Deep
That's just
lore
how I feel.
implications. Elden Ring, for those who are willing to admit it, has been a complete and total failure.
No, it hasn't. Elden Ring is FromSoft's most successful IP. It is like their poster child. It is the most successful thing that FromSoft has ever made. It reached a wider audience for people outside of the Souls community and got people into it. It is by far their most popular title. Sorry, I can't speak today. But my God, dude, people were getting into the series before Elden Ring, but it didn't get like popular to like this scale. Like, it's unfathomably big now, which is crazy.
DLC has not done enough to keep the IP interesting to audiences. If anything, this is the beginning.
Well, there are some people who absolutely love Elden Ring. The majority of the audience loves Elden Ring, and they think that the changes that they made to like the combat and like, you know, added the new spirit summon system and like traversal with torrent and stuff. Like, the changes that they've made are great. Like the Ash of War system, I love the Ash of War system. But again, it's just like, for me, the bosses are the main problem. I think they're just way too overtuned. I just don't think that they're very, very fun to fight.
Of people realizing that the story to these games is really kind of stupid and makes no inherent sense, and that the developers will make lore changes to appease online audiences, to do something to invoke a reaction, right? They really do.
Okay, spoilers for Shadow of the Erdtree if you've never played it, but the final boss being Radahn, it's not even Prime Radahn. It's Moog in like with a Radahn skin, because Radahn can't do blood flame attacks. So already you're just wrong. But still, I do think that him wanting to like Moog to be his consort or something is like not really all that weird in the grand scheme of things. I mean, if they're related, I mean, that's like his half brother or something, then yeah, that's pretty fucking weird. But I mean, like, the Souls games have always been known for having like weird shit in them. Like, this is nothing like out of the ordinary.
Do just make this stuff up as they go along, and most people like don't.
I will also say this: there are only like 2 bosses I really loved fighting in the DLC, and that was Mesmer and then Midra. Those 2 bosses were fucking amazing, but the rest of it I could go without, to be honest. And I'd also recommend not going through Shadow of the Erdtree on New Game Plus, because it is brutal. It is way too brutal.
It. Most people tend to think that, like, no, there's some deep purpose to this. George R.R. Martin wouldn't write a story with no ending, right? Like, these people clearly don't understand just how FromSoft is just not very competitive with its core competition, which is, of course, the Legend of Zelda franchise. They don't.
What do you mean by they're not competitive with Zelda? Zelda is nothing like the Souls series. There's a whole reason why FromSoft is renowned as one of the best developers ever, because they invented a new genre of game, hence the title Souls-like. Like that's why people are making their own versions of Souls games like Lies of P and Lords of the Fallen and Mortal Shell. Because they did something that nobody else was doing and it really resonated with people. It's not trying to be competitive with Zelda. Why do you always have to fucking make this comparison? Because it's just so stupid.
I don't understand that like Nintendo has way more technically demanding mechanics, that they can evolve more, that they can put out more games, that they can tackle different genres even within the same franchise. Like,
Was it is George R.R. Martin? He was the author for Game of Thrones. And I've never read the Game of Thrones books, so I can't attest to how good they are. But he was the one who wrote the lore for Elden Ring. And I don't know if he was as hands-on with the DLC for it or not, but I know he wrote the lore for the base game. And some of the lore can be pretty interesting. It's just I haven't made the time to sit down and really like listen to any of it yet, or like try to figure out what this lore like is.
FromSoft at its core is the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where people get upset if they deviate from that even a little bit. Just look at how people reacted to Armored Core 6. So, like, seeing Shadows of the Erdtree just people to franchise. Like, FromSoft at its core is the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where people get upset if they deviate from that even a little bit.
But you do realize that Nintendo is doing the exact same thing with their games, right? Like, I imagine because Mario Odyssey was such a success, their next, like, major Mario game is probably going to be on the same plane as Mario Odyssey. Now, they did do another 2D Mario game with Mario Wonder, and then a Mario RPG with Mario Brothership, but they also didn't sell as well as Mario Odyssey, so let me clarify that and make sure that's... Go ahead and pull up streaming. It has been cited as one of the greatest video games ever made. The game won several awards and has sold 28.21 million copies by June 30th, 2024. So, yes, it has absolutely outsold those two games. So he makes cringe fantasy graphic stuff. I mean, I don't know if it would necessarily be cringe. I haven't read the books, so I can't really say, but I just can't get into the TV show because there's just so much unnecessary sex in it that I can't get through it because there's just so much of it. Like, I want to like it because I'm a huge fantasy nerd, so by proxy, I love stuff like Elden Ring and the Souls series and Lord of the Rings, for example, but I can't get into Game of Thrones, man. I just can't.
Just look at how people reacted to Armored Core 6. So, like, seeing Shadows of the Erdtree...
I missed it again. I gotta go
franchise.
back.
Like, FromSoft at its core is the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where people get upset if they deviate from that even a little bit.
And like I already said, Nintendo has been doing that with pretty much every game. They did it with Tears of the Kingdom. I wouldn't be surprised for their next like major Mario game that sells really well. It's going to be like Mario Odyssey.
Look at how people reacted to Armored Core 6. So,
but
like,
no, people didn't really get mad at Armored Core 6 though, because it was a new entry for a series that had been stagnant for a while, right? Streaming. When did this come out? 2012. Yeah, it was stagnant for a while. So people were actually pretty hyped that a new Armored Core game was coming out. So nobody really reacted pretty negatively to it. It seems like people actually pretty liked it. The P word that would make a black and orange website, was it Famed and Loathed? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Shadows of the Erdtree just kind of
Sorry for the voice crack, by the way.
burn out, just like the first Flame, has been a really exciting thing for me personally, because it really showcases just how FromSoft is going to be remembered among the masses, right? This is something that's only popular because everyone else is playing it. The instant that, like, you know,
Well, isn't that how popularity works? Because if everybody is like collectively playing a game, then that automatically makes it popular. Like Marvel Rivals is really popular right now. Doesn't that, or it has a lot of players at least. Here, let's pull up SteamDB. SteamDB. Okay, I keep misspelling it. SteamDB. So let's go here. Why is Concord here? Let's go to the home. SteamDB. Marvel Rivals. Here we go. 302,130 all-time or players in game right now. So because a lot of people are playing it, that pretty much means it's popular. That's how that works. If nobody's really playing a game, that doesn't mean that it's popular. Like, take a look at Concord, for example. Nobody played that, which means it wasn't popular.
people come out and make statements about how they're not having fun with these games and how they're not very good and how old games were better, the entire thing kind of collapses. And you can kind of see early signs of that already with people who aren't like super hardcore fans. And to me, this is an indication that the FromSlot formula is beginning to burn out.
I mean, I wouldn't say that the formula is beginning to burn out. I think I'm just ready to see a new IP from them, to be honest. Like, I want to see something different along the same veins of, like, Bloodborne and Sekiro. Like, I mean, I love the Dark Souls combat. I really do. Like, Dark Souls and Elden Ring's combat is great. It's just that the bosses in Elden Ring are overtuned to the point where I just don't find them fun. I find them tiring. So, I'm just ready to see something new from FromSoft. I really am.
Square Enix is so incompetent, they somehow managed to bungle a remake of Final Fantasy VII. And that fact, that the decision they made a decade ago, is finally paying its dividends, right? The mistakes they made a decade ago in regards to making the game episodic, in padding everything out, it really is killing any fan enthusiasm for this thing, because this is a game we really should have bought and played already. They should not have done this. They should have just made a straight remake. But instead we get this stupid, like, reimagined fan fiction thing of, like, with the time jannies and all this crazy stuff. Like, the game is just a complete and total train wreck that no serious fan would ever seriously consider supporting.
Okay, so Final Fantasy VII. I have not played a single Final Fantasy game, so I cannot comment on this, but I will say that it seems like everybody who played it seemed to like it, so take that as what you will. He lives in a vacuum, doesn't he? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he definitely does.
This was a mistake from the get-go. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a game that I've been talking a lot about on the channel. I've always maintained that, like, the Final Fantasy VII Remake series would fail. I knew this was a big, like, problem for Square that would, like, cause them issues for years. But the counterpoint to that, the thing that everyone always brought up, was that, like, well, Final Fantasy XIV prints money. Like, Square can't go bankrupt because people can't stop playing this MMO. That might not be true anymore after the disastrous launch of Final Fantasy XIV John Trail, in which everyone hates it. Like, nobody but the most hardcore of tranny cocksucking shills.
Oh my god, dude, you're actually gonna get me fucking demonetized. Why the fuck would you say that? Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Oh my god. I didn't... man, I watched through this video once just to see if it was worth making content on. I forgot most of the shit that he said. I forgot this part was even in here. Jesus Christ. Holy shit, that's bad. That's really bad. Dude, why are you using a slur to describe a group of people? Why? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? On one of your most recent streams, you were complaining about how you're alone and nobody's ever gonna, like, fucking be there to care about you. This is why! You're hateful towards like everybody who is just like not on your side against Nintendo, like on your side for Nintendo. Like you're just so hateful to everybody. You even said PC gamers should be hung for their crimes for emulating Nintendo games. You're just such a massive asshole to everybody. That's why nobody fucking likes you. So if you want to have people there to care about you, maybe stop doing this. Maybe stop talking about how these games are gonna fail and that like people are like fucking cocksuckers just for like supporting a game that they like. Why are you so just because it's not made by Nintendo does not make it bad. Is the big lesson here. Like what, or if you like, even if you like don't like the stuff or you're not interested in it, then just don't fucking talk about it. Talk about the stuff you are interested in and what makes it good to you. People would respect you a lot more. And you would actually be a semi-decent Nintendo YouTuber if you weren't bashing on everything all the time. That's why you're so fucking miserable, is because you push everybody away by being a fucking asshole. God, Harman, you really need to you need to do some like soul searching. You need to quit YouTube and do some fucking soul searching, man. Like Jesus Christ. I don't think I've ever seen anybody more miserable. Harman actually doing some digging to find the worst this year. Maybe you'd find yourself. Yeah, if he actually maybe stopped like just ranting and raving about non-Nintendo games for 5 minutes, maybe he would actually like find some like happiness. Or instead of like bashing everything that isn't Nintendo and instead talked about the Nintendo games he does like, then maybe he'd find some peace. Maybe he would find himself and like be happy. And then maybe people would actually show him a little bit of respect. But because he loves to dunk on everything that isn't made by Nintendo, and he loves to suck off Nintendo 24/7, he's just not gonna like gain any like following, or he's just gonna make everybody hate him. He's still doing that. And because he also loves to like call for people to fucking die just for doing their job or enjoying what they're enjoying, and also being not only incredibly racist but bigoted towards specific group of people, as we just heard, then yeah, nobody's really gonna like him or take him seriously. Like he really needs to do some soul searching.
Really thought this was a good idea whatsoever, right? This expansion really exposes the house of cards that Square Enix had.
But also, okay, so this is what, a Final Fantasy, so I'm not sure. Final Fantasy's, was it Dawn Trail is not Final Fantasy's 14's worst expansion. Let's see here. So I guess it's called Dawn Trail? Yeah, okay, so there was an expansion for an MMO that came out this year. This isn't a game, this is an expansion. Why are you including it on this list? Maybe just to pad the runtime?
It's built with Final Fantasy 14. Like, what are you going to do if you don't like the expansion? Just play the other things? Like, again, Final Fantasy 14 was never good to begin with, but for the longest time, people have been pretending like this is like some premier MMO and some really major accomplishment to gaming and just this huge thing, this huge deal. And I think this expansion just kind of demonstrates that's not true, right? To me, it feels like MMORPG fans just aren't willing to accept that their preferred genre is just inherently cancer, right? Instead of having a game that just comes out and is finished and you can just play it at leisure, like, no, man, the game is constantly updating with new contents, and you have to spend dozens of hours grinding for materials so you can complete these quests that don't mean or do anything, right? Like, to me, I think it's impossible to keep an MMO like high quality for a long period of time because people are
What about World of Warcraft? Isn't that game an MMO and it's been doing just fine for several years?
going to leave the project the quality is going to go down, and lore changes are going to be made. And I think that's like the big thing that really impacts Dawn Trail specifically, is that the overarching story that people claim to be into, claim to care about, has been completely ruined by the addition of the new character like Wook Lamat, who is so unpopular that absolutely nobody has anything nice to say about it at all.
Glad that concern can be better than it's made out to be. Care for who you don't know isn't that bad. I mean, see, the thing is, I want to care about Harman, and I want him to be better. I want him to succeed. But the problem is that like he's just so full of hate and like bigoted towards specific group of people that like I don't know if I really can like want him to succeed anymore. Like I kind of just like I think he deserves to be alone for how he's treated everybody. I don't know how he's treated everybody in real life, but like he's an insufferable piece of shit online. I wonder how he is in real life, you know? Like it just really makes me wonder like how he still is the way he is and why he hasn't changed. But he's not going to change though. That's the problem. He's not going to change. So at this point he has no one to blame but himself. So at this point for him, I think it's probably deserved that he's as alone as he is.
Oh. And right now, like Yoshi P is doing damage control for the game. He's trying to say that like
if it was just exclusive to his opinions on video games, I wouldn't give a shit. Like if he was just trashing on everything and then didn't insert his politics anywhere, then I'd be like, yeah, no, that you're wrong in saying that it's bad without even playing it. But you know what? Fine, you can cry into the void, whatever. But because he likes to insert his politics everywhere, sometimes, and then just gets, and even like we just heard, uses slurs against a specific group of people, like at that point you're just a shitty person. Like you deserve to be alone at that point, because at that point you're some of the biggest scum on the earth.
The mistakes that they made will be fixed, but I think the reality of the situation is that there is no fixing Final Fantasy XIV. This game has already made a critical mistake, and the mistakes they have to fix are going to have to be built on top of it, right? Like it was crazy to me how like people seriously damage controlled the reboot of Final Fantasy XIV to begin with. But when it comes to Dawn Trail, when it comes to these endless controversies for this game, like how exactly are you going to keep your game relevant if new players like myself keep getting scared off by just all of this pointless nonsense that doesn't make any sense? And just,
if you're a new player, why aren't you showing footage of you playing it then? Why are you using trailer footage? That doesn't make sense. Because for your best of the years list, pretty much all of your footage consisted of you playing the games on the stream. Why aren't you using footage of you playing the game? Because at that point, I just don't believe you when you say that you're a new player. I just don't.
I don't want to see in my games. When I see that you hire a tranny to voice a female...
Oh my god, dude. Why did you say it again? Oh my god, you're really trying to get me fucking demonetized out here. I mean, not like my stream is going to be monetized to begin with. I don't even have 1,000 subs, but Jesus Christ, man, you can't just be saying this shit. You just can't be.
Character, not only am I not going to buy your game, I'm not going to buy anything else you produce. So, no. I'm completely done with Final Fantasy. I'm completely done with Squaresoft. I'm completely done with Square Enix. I'm completely done with Yoshi P, who I wish people would shit on more. And people really do need to start ending their subscriptions to Final Fantasy XIV, because this is not a game that's going to get any better.
Well, Harman, I hate to break it to you, but pretty much anything is going to be doing better than anything from any spinoff from Nintendo that you're going to hype up next year. Final Fantasy XIV is going to be doing just fine next year in comparison to any other Nintendo title that you want to prop up. I'm just saying.
Imagine being a PlayStation owner and seriously trying to tell your melanated buddies that, like, oh man, Astrobot, it's such a great game. It's the best platformer ever made. Like, oh, like seriously, imagine.
Astrobot. Okay. So Astrobot, interestingly enough, won Game of the Year, which I think for a small studio like that who had made Astrobot to win Game of the Year is a big deal. It's a pretty big deal. So I mean, happy for the studio, happy for the team involved. Do I wish that another game won Game of the Year? Probably. I mean, but like I also can't say that because I haven't played Astrobot. I don't have a PS5. But if it ever comes to PC, I'll give it a try. But I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's like, that it's like one of the best platformers ever made. I don't think anybody was making that argument. I think everybody was saying that like it's not Game of the Year material, but like, they were saying that it was enjoyable, that it's not bad. Also, Harman, you really gotta like down tone the hate for like the minority groups, like please, because you're coming off as a shitty person, and it's making it harder to dunk on the game picks and why you dislike them and not you as a person. So Astrobot lol, where did Armored Core rank? Armored Core came out last year.
Imagine trying to tell people,
At least Armored Core 6 did anyway,
that this game outperformed Mario.
I don't think anybody was saying that because it's a PS5 exclusive. Anything locked to one platform is not going to do well.
That was seriously the line of thought, that this game had better controls, better mechanics, better visuals, better style. Like, it was just a better game in general than any other 3D platformer ever. Like, people.
So what? Like, Astrobot is not allowed to be a good 3D platformer?
People were seriously trying to say this was like the best platformer ever made. And
no one was saying that. Please point to an example where people were saying that. Please. I didn't hear anybody say that shit.
And immediately, real platforming fans kind of called them
Quote unquote real platforming fans. Oh my god, dude.
out on it, because the people saying this were people who have spent the past 20 years like going after every major Nintendo platformer that came out, whether it was like Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong 64, Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie. The list goes on and on and on.
Why are you bringing up examples from the N64? Why not bring up something more modern? So you can properly compare it,
You're really telling me that Astrobot is better than all of that?
No one was saying that Astrobot was better than all of that. Please, point to one example where somebody was saying that. Please.
And of course, real Nintendo
God.
fans rejected this narrative immediately, but game journos were really pushing this line of thinking for weeks after this came out. Like, I saw some of them say this game outperformed every other 3D platformer this generation, which isn't true. People.
Here, let me. Here. Okay, just let's see here. Astrobot has officially sold 1.5 million copies since launch, as confirmed by Sony. So, I mean, a million was it 1.5 million copies? Yeah, that's not a whole lot, but nobody was. I don't think anybody was really making that claim that it was that it outsold any 3D platformer from Nintendo. I don't think anybody was making that claim at all.
Were saying it was better than Nintendo. People were hyping up the crossover aspects.
Okay, I'm just gonna let it play. But dude, are you really trying to? Why is your main argument that oh yeah, people were saying that Astrobot was better than anything Nintendo ever made? Nobody was making that argument. I never saw anybody make that argument. Please point to one example where someone was saying that Astrobot was better than any 3D platformer that Nintendo has made. Please point to that, because I haven't seen it.
Know that, Super Smash Bros. Does that better. There's nothing about Astrobot that is new or interesting. To a Nintendo fan, all of this looks really familiar. to the point where like I really don't understand why anybody would really get excited about this at all. To me,
Probably because Astrobot looks like it could be a Nintendo game on like modern consoles or modern platforms, really. Like that's part of the charm.
this is a really good example of just how PlayStation fans are willing to swallow up slop because they really have no idea what's actually out there.
But you're also willing to swallow up slop just because it's made by Nintendo.
If you were a real fan of platformers, if you really enjoyed games like this, you would own a Nintendo Switch and you would own the better games in this already, right?
I would own some other platforming games if they went on fucking sale, because there are only 2 games from my eShop wishlist that are on sale right now. Only 2, and it's fucking Christmas. Why haven't more of these games gone on sale?
Wouldn't say something so arbitrary as pretending that like say, oh, this the final stage in Astrobot is harder than any Mario level, when really it's just a basic Mario Galaxy stage, right? Like it's just sad to see people worship this game the way they did. Imagine producing a Splatoon knockoff and then getting upset at
Splatoon
fans
knockoff?
for calling you out on what you did. Foam Stars is the very
Foam Stars. Okay. So, I don't really have much to say about Foam Stars. Never played it, but what I will say is that, like, isn't it a good thing that Splatoon is an influential enough title to inspire something like this? I mean, I heard that, like, Foam Stars didn't really do all that well. Like, I've heard that there aren't many people playing it, I think, but other than that, like, I mean, like, isn't it kind of a good thing that a game like this exists because Splatoon is influential enough to create something like this? Shouldn't you be excited that Splatoon is inspiring other people to make games like this?
pinnacle of example of why you cannot take what third parties say or do seriously, right? This was supposed to be Square Enix's answer to Splatoon. And what happens? It looks so derivative and uninspired and boring with no real creativity or charm to it at all that the Splatoon audience immediately just laughed at it and called it ridiculous, right? Like, this goes to show you just how well made of an IP Splatoon actually is, where it comes off as universally more appealing, it comes off as fresh and exciting. Even today, that's true. And then you see this knockoff product, and you're just like, unbelievable. Like, even Angry Joe said this was a knockoff, and he had to back off of that statement because like he's not supposed to say anything nice about Nintendo, right? But when even Angry Joe is calling this a ripoff, you really do have this sense of just like, wow, unbelievable. And of course, like people called this out for the people. Nobody bought this game, nobody played it, but there just is no denying that Splatoon's legacy on gaming has resulted in games like this being produced. Splatoon is huge in Japan right now, and I think it will eventually like grow to be as big or bigger in the US as well. So seeing something like this fail the way it has, it really shows just how ingrained Splatoon is in the popular culture and just how Square Enix can never, ever, ever do anything to replicate that.
But to say it's one of the worst games of the year, though? Like, maybe it's not as popular as Splatoon, but, like, for it to be one of the worst games of the year? That doesn't make sense.
If ever a series has long outlasted its welcome, it's the Yakuza games. When
Oh, a new Yakuza came out this year? Hold on. Streaming. Like a Dragon TV miniseries? Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth? Okay, this must be the new Yakuza game then. Came out in January of this year. Okay. So, of course, it's a Yakuza game.
The
He doesn't like
series
it.
outgrows its main protagonist, and it has to start expanding through other avenues. Yeah, you would think they would branch out into a character that's already established, or actually has some appeal, or someone that actually likes. Now, instead, they come up with this Ichiban guy who nobody likes, nobody cares about, and tries to do the same thing, but like, ooh, just with a different protagonist. And now we're in a different location. We're in Hawaii now. Like, it's the same exact thing, but with no creativity, no charm. The story is a step down from Like a Dragon 1. In general, like, the Yakuza IP feels like it's been stagnant for a long time, since like 5. Like, in a lot of ways, it feels like 7 just came out, and we're already getting a sequel, and now it feels as if the series is just running out of steam. I haven't heard anyone say anything nice about this game since it came out, and they're already putting out like a DLC expansion with like Majima as a pirate. It's just like, come on, like, why don't you just do something new? Why don't you actually fix your combat? Why don't you actually like get writers who know what they're doing? Like, why even keep producing these games? Why do people keep buying them? Right? To me, it's just,
Okay, I've never played a Yakuza game before, but like, I can't imagine they're that bad if it's been around for this long and they're still making games for it. Like,
this is an IP that's outstood its welcome for quite a long time, and I really can't wait to see the series just finally start to fall off, because this is something that should have gone away a long time ago. Traditionally, game journalists have always been very critical of JRPGs. Back in the day, they propped up BioWare over them and tried to say that JRPGs weren't real JRPGs. And with Metaphor ReFantasio, they tried backtracking on
Metaphor?
that in a big way. And I think the reason for that being that Metaphor
okay, another game I heard that was actually pretty good was Metaphor. Not really sure exactly why. I mean, he's dunking on it because it's not a Nintendo game, but I heard it's not really that bad. Like, I really did. I heard it's not that bad.
ReFantasio is a game that panders to them. This is a game all about more racism and how different groups of people are oppressed. And so woke SJW game journalists
Oh my
love to
God.
prop this up as the best thing in the genre when it
Wait,
prop this up as
did he say genre?
the best thing in the genre when
Oh my God, Harman. Again, please just redo the voiceover. It's not that hard.
it kind of comes off like Persona 5's like edgy teenager writing an anime kind of thing. Like, it to me, Atlas is a studio that's on the way out, right? They are clearly in decline. They're being influenced by the higher ups at Sega, and they're making all these decisions that they would not have made 10, 20 years ago. And Persona 3 Reload is a good example of that, but I think this is the first new game that we've seen from them that seems to be taking in a lot of woke globalist aspects to it. It does need to be addressed. It does need to be talked about. This is an example of a woke JRPG.
Another Nintendo game. That's surprising to me. I can't believe he had as many Nintendo games on here as he did.
It's time we talk about the big Nintendo L of the year. The long-awaited Endless Ocean 3, a game that we've been waiting a decade for, comes out and it is a complete middling mess that makes no sense to anybody and is a complete departure for what made the first 2 games so memorable and interesting. Instead of exploring a wide open ocean with lots of things to find and do and discover, you are exploring a stale, boring, randomly generated ecosystem that just has really nothing cool or interesting to find outside of some.
Okay, I just want to say that this looks like a third person like Subnautica. This looks very similar to like Subnautica. Now, he has said that Endless Ocean has been around for a while, so I mean, I don't want to compare the two, but like this does look like it's inspired by Subnautica.
randomly generated things that don't feel natural or organic or interesting. Like, the game seems built around these randomly generated concepts, and you have to gradually unlock them as you proceed through the game. So if you're like me and only put like 5 hours or so into it, you're not going to unlock the cooler locations or things. Like, why do I have to unlock things that are in the ocean? It doesn't make any sense. And it is so frustrating because this is a game that I really wanted to do well. This was something I was pulling for. This was something I was supporting. I really wanted this to be a W for Endless Ocean fans. But when you really look at what the game delivers and its features and just, no, like, it failed at things that the first two games accomplished like a decade ago. If we ever get a sequel, and I hope we do, hopefully the development team understands what people actually want and deliver on this, right? This should be a game about exploring an open ocean. I don't want to be
Then
relegated.
play Subnautica. If you want a good ocean exploration game, just play Subnautica.
Get it to tiny zones. I don't want randomly generated aspects to it. I don't want like a story that's not very well thought out or interesting, right? Like, I want a diving sim, and they really need to deliver that for us. Much like Dragon Quest III HD, Atlas and Sega decided to take it upon themselves to wokeify Persona 3, removing a lot of dialogue and editing things into the opening cinematics, right? This is unacceptable. I don't want wokeness in any of my games, and as a result of that, I will not be supporting Atlas or Persona going forward.
Okay.
What a fall from grace. What was once considered the greatest of all time in my generation, the Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door, has completely blundered onto Nintendo Switch with worse looking graphics, with worse gameplay.
Thousand Year Door. One I heard from the GameCube generation that was pretty good, but I never played it, so.
With the rebalancing changes that nobody asked for, with a new localization that ruins a lot of themes and concepts and ideas.
But apparently this was really bad. Like, what about it is bad exactly, though? Like, I really want to know. What's bad about it?
The original localization. This game was over.
Well, okay, he did just mention it. Like, I think he said that it was mostly what I'm getting hung up on is the localization issues, but he said the visuals were worse.
Considered the greatest of all time in my generation. The Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door, has completely blundered onto Nintendo Switch with worse looking graphics, with worse gameplay, with the rebalancing changes that nobody asked for, with a new localization that ruins a lot of themes and concepts and ideas of the original localization. This game was overrated to begin with. But
okay, well, I can't attest to that because I never played the original. I haven't played the remake, but I mean, is it really that bad? Like, is it really?
Looking at it now, looking at just what a train wreck this version was, this has to be the single most disappointing release of the year, right? It is so insane how they could take a straight up classic like this and butcher it so badly. And this is a game that's very heavy on the dialogue and the jokes and things like that, the continuity. So seeing like the developers try and like redo it and try and like wokeify it was a complete and utter train wreck. Like, ruining entire character arcs, ruining lines of dialogue, ruining certain jokes. To me, and I think this is something that a lot of people will agree with when they go back and play it, the original English translation is far superior, to the point where I have a hard time recommending this version to anyone unless you really, really want to fight the super bonus bosses at the end. And that is something you'll only want to do if you're a hardcore fan of the original, I think. But for like everyone else, like, there's no reason not to pick up the GameCube version over this. It's so much more appealing. It was so much well put together. It was so engaging and so exciting. Like, it's just a better game in general. And this remake is really one that I wish more people would condemn for what it is. This is something that we don't see from Nintendo often, which is a lazy cash grab remake that does very little to improve on the original release.
Well, it doesn't look that bad though.
Surprising absolutely no one, Pal World is
okay, Pal World. Pal World was really good, in my opinion. I had never really played a Pokemon game before. I mean, I had played Pokemon Go, but like that's not really the same as like an actual Pokemon game. So I can't really say I played like a traditional Pokemon game. This is the closest I could get. Okay, so I played it, and it's a pretty good survival game, and especially with the monster capturing mechanic, it's a fun game. But for Nintendo to go after Pocket Pair for infringing on patents that were in games before Pokemon was even made is crazy to me. So I don't know what they're trying to go
worst
for here.
game of 2024.
No, it's not.
I can't think of anything else that was propped up as much as this to downplay any Nintendo product this year. And the fact that they thought to go after Pokemon, to me, is laughable. The fact that they seriously tried pushing this narrative that this game was somehow bigger or more successful than Pokemon.
No one was saying that. Pokemon is like unbeatable compared to Pal World or any other IP. You can't beat Pokemon, and nobody wants it to go away. Nobody was trying to say that this is a Pokemon killer. It's a competitor, but not a killer.
That this was an actual genuine threat to Nintendo is and always has been laughable. And now that we're seeing the chickens come home to roost, Nintendo has filed that lawsuit, and they are going after the developer. After we were assured by the gaming industry that it would not happen and that Nintendo didn't have a case, this is a game that won't even exist a couple of years from now. It's not going to get any sequels. It's not going to get that anime adaptation. It's not going to get merchandise. This is an IP that was only ever relevant or propped up purely because of the Pokemon plagiarism. And for me, nothing could be more pathetic that they seriously tried and to take advantage of the Pokemon company in this way.
Man, actual worst games of 2024, bro. I know, right? Like, he put genuine good games on here. I mean, like, the only one I really agreed with was, like, Concord. And, like, that was it. Pal World is not one of the worst games that released this year. It might not be the most original game ever, but it's not that bad. It's a pretty good game. I just got to the point where it was, like, really grindy. So I put it down after a while. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Just grinding isn't really my thing. It's just not that doesn't mean it's bad though. Like it's good. It's a genuinely good game. But also he likes to the claim that he just made that this is a plagiarized game. No, it's not. You have no proof that it's plagiarized.
I could not be happier that these people, quote unquote, are going to get reamed.
Well, there you.
Oh my god. The voiceover overlapped, but he also said that the developers are subhuman. Like, are you serious?
that
You're really that childish?
these people, quote unquote, are going to get reamed.
Well,
in
there you
court.
have.
He is really he's really that much of an asshole that he sees these people as subhuman. Oh my god.
That these people, quote unquote, are going to get reamed.
Well,
in
there you
court.
have it.
Oh my god. The voiceover overlap. Dude, just fucking do it again, or like edit your video. Like, Jesus Christ, it's not that hard. Edit it some more so that that doesn't happen. Oh my god.
The very absolute worst games of 2024. This year was a complete train wreck, but with a new Nintendo console on the horizon and more of these third-party studios going bankrupt all the time, and more people rejecting the PlayStation and Xbox platforms and PC.
Nobody's really rejecting any of these platforms though. Like, yeah, sure, it was kind of a dry spell this year, but like it wasn't a train wreck, and nobody's rejecting these platforms. If anything, people people are probably might be ditching them for PC or something, but like nobody's gonna ditch them for the Switch. And anyone who knows anything about hardware will not ditch their PS4 or Xbox or PS5 or Xbox for a Switch. That's just never gonna happen.
PC gaming becoming irrelevant.
PC gaming is also not irrelevant. PC gaming is probably the most popular it's ever been. Like that's just an inherently false statement. PC gaming is more popular than it's ever been. It's on par, maybe just as popular, if not maybe more popular or on par with console gaming. It's up there, man. It's one of the most popular platforms you could play on. It's not irrelevant, so I don't know where you're getting this argument from.
Things are going to
Especially with like millions of registered Steam users online every single day. That's that's just wrong.
get better. 2025 already looks far superior with games like Metroid Prime 4 and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and Atelier Yumiya and endless amounts of like cool new interesting titles coming out. But it remains to be seen just what the end of the year is going to look like.
PC advocates, am I right? Yeah.
As of this recording, I actually still don't know what the next Nintendo console is going to be. So
if history repeats itself, it's just going to be another version of the Switch. Because the same thing happened with the DS with the 3DS, same thing happened from the Wii to the Wii U. Every time Nintendo strikes gold with a console, they just repeat it, and then it just turns out to be total turbo ass. So yeah, if history repeats itself again, then it's just going to be another version of the Switch, which they did already confirm that the Switch games are going to be backwards compatible with the new console. So it is very likely just going to be another version of the Switch.
that feeling of anticipation for a new platform release, it's very exciting, and it's
exciting, but you are the same one who also said that you don't think there should be a new Nintendo console for some time because you think that there could be more life like pulled from the Switch for now. Like for like another decade, which just isn't realistic. We're in need of a new Nintendo console now with better hardware. Something that can do 1080p 60 at least. Like
something that we're all looking forward to. But we still have to talk about the best games of 2024. The absolute best games on Nintendo Switch, which of course is superior to the other platforms.
No, it's not.
We will be talking the top 10 games of 2024 in the Mario's Award Show. I will see you all then.
Well, that oh man, the best games of 2024. I did watch the video, and I will just say that it all being Nintendo games is not surprising. But you also did you did hype up the most niche Nintendo titles that came out this year just to try and make a point that Nintendo is dominating the market when that's just not true. Thoughts on Healthy Gamer GG? I have no idea who that is. I'll probably have to look him up later. But that's the worst games of the year list. As always, definitely don't agree with Harman. I also wish that he wouldn't use a slur to refer to a certain group of people. So I hope he changes for the better because he's complaining about being lonely and that nobody's gonna be there to care about him. And this is a big reason why. Because he is just so like stuck in his way for like defending Nintendo that he will do fucking anything at all to try and bat for his favorite corporate company. It just baffles my mind that he's just like he wants people to care about him and be a piece of shit at the same time. That you just can't have it that way. That's not how that works. You either be an asshole and no one likes you, or you be a nice person and everyone likes you. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You just need to grow the fuck up, really, is what it is. But I think now that we're done with the video, I think that'll also do it for the stream.